doesn't receive the formal honor, but certainly is the woman among many who deserves it, who earned it, and who we should elevate in that manner. That's my opinion of Ella Mccall.
Wow. Yeah, hey, that's fantastic, because you know as well as I, as you're sharing, that many people will say kind things about you only if others can't hear it. if that makes any sense.
It
But
absolutely does.
okay. And that's
But this is another thing. Ella never got formal donations like from the Gates Foundation, or the all these Fortune 501 C3 organizations who receive these things from Fortune 500 companies. During the George Floyd murder, because I'm gonna call it a murder because that's what it was.
exactly.
All these companies made all these acclamations and got all this press, what they were doing, etc. And if you really think about it and you really do your due diligence, you'll see that a lot of them did not follow through. And one easy way that they can do it is not talk about it. Just give the donation to Ella's group, because she always does the right thing with the money.
Absolutely.
So, that's my opinion of Ella Mccall. I can't speak highly enough of her.
That's great. That's great. That's great. And
at one point she wanted the kids to make money, so she needed embroidery machines, and they cost like $15,000 a piece. And I was able to buy 2 of them for her. Wow. She was trying to save senior citizens homes because they didn't know how to save them, and a lot of them didn't have the money to save them. And it wasn't even a lot of money that they needed, but the banks were foreclosing, and people were taking advantage of them. And there was Ella Mccall standing between them and losing their homes. And so I was able to get some donations for that. But everybody needs to donate to her organization, because if there's anyone in the world who does the right thing with the money, it's Ella.
Wow. Now that is a mouthful in and of itself. Yeah. We could have a whole show just on that alone. Good evening. I'm your host, Melvin Casey Lars. And guys, as you know, this is a Nobody Asked Me Guy show. Now listen, I have to say this. We appreciate our audience being patient with us and staying around. As always, guys, you know how technology works. There's always some glitches, but guess what? We don't stop for anything. So listen, this evening, we have a dynamic, stupendous guest in the person of Miss Ella Mccall Haygan. Now, guys, listen, anytime you hear all of the rhetoric out there about single moms and people not being educated, you hear all of the rhetoric. But this evening, Ms. Mccall is going to destroy all of those myths. Ms. Mccall was a teen mom. She was a high school dropout. I'm sure there were all kind of disparaging words shared about her, but I guarantee you nobody, many of them that did all the talking did not have much to say when she went on and earned a scholarship to USA University, and she became a social worker, and all of the people that she's working with and presently helping, and not only with her skills, saving people's homes and just in general saving their lives. We all hear about people being homeless and going through all kind of peril. So this evening, that's why you should consider yourselves blessed to be able to come and share with this dynamic woman in the person of Ella Mccall Haygan. Ms. Haygan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, listen,
I'm going to give you $10.
Well, hey, I will accept it, but I want you to know
for that glowing description.
Well, listen, but guess what? I'm going to double it and give it back to you tenfold, because it's an honor to have you on our show. But when I started reading your information that you sent me, and I started looking at all the accolades and all the things that you've done for people, and you never asked to say, hey, look at me, look at what I'm doing, and the work that you do with the Rose and Raymond Parks Institute. And I mean, you're just a Renaissance woman. And will you please kind of walk us through?
Okay, I have to start with the beginning when I was born.
Okay.
I was born in Foggy Bottom, where the Kennedy Center is sitting now. But when I was born there, it was Foggy Bottom. It wasn't considered as part of Georgetown because that's where all the black people lived. That's where they had us. Everybody, rich, poor, doctors, lawyers, whomever, we all lived in that area. Then I moved to 9th and P Street Northwest, the Shore Cardozo area. Now, I was about 7, I think, 7. And across the street from me, down the street, there lived a gentleman, a distinguished gentleman named Dr. Carter G. Woodson. But
okay.
we knew him as Mr. Woodson. But the candy store was right next door to his house.
Okay.
So he would buy the kids in the neighborhood candy. And, he was just distinguished man. We didn't know who he was. He was the Mr. Wilson, the rich man across the street who has a business, his books and things, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know, he was just so nice and dressed so nice. He made me think about education and all that. Once I found out who he was when I think it was in the 4th grade. We had Negro History Week. And the teacher was showing, because, we had black teachers, and she was showing, pictures and things of Negro History Week. And there was Mr. Woodson, and we said, oh, that's Mr. Woodson. And she said, that's Dr. Woodson.
Okay.
And from then on, so, I just have to get that in there because he was my first person of history that, that I knew. I lived across the street, but I knew this man, as a child and growing up. But anyway, to say all of that, on last Saturday, they are making his home a museum.
Wow.
And they, one of the board members, she called me and she said, you knew Mr. Woodson, so Dr. Woodson, so we need you to come and tell the story, and we're going to do a documentary. I said, what? I said, I can talk to you and tell you. She said, no. So I came, I did the documentary. I walked the streets and told them where we did this and who lived there and blah, blah, blah. So
what an honor.
So it's an honor. It was an honor for them to ask me, and I probably they couldn't find nobody. It was probably most of everybody dead, I think, but anyway, I'm glad that I was able to do that, because we love this man. And all the, the things, all the mistakes that I made in life, I still thought about things I wanted to do. I wanted an education, I was a teenage mother, okay? And after a while, when I was 18, I moved to New York with my aunt. So I grew up in Brooklyn and Harlem. So that's another story. That's a big story too, because I met all these people up there, and I don't know what it was about me meeting all of these good, famous people. I mean, from the heart. And me, I was a ghetto sister, and I wasn't interested in being no special person with a big name. I wasn't. That wasn't me. All I wanted to do was help my people, help the women, because what I had been through. Help the children as a child, what I had been through from a brutal stepfather. I had a brutal stepfather. And I can go on, but I'm gonna try to cut the chase. Well, anyway, let me tell you about when I started to work at the shelter. First of all, I got an education from Pride Incorporated. Pride Incorporated was an organization a youth, boys, and ex-offenders organization, men organization. And Marion Barry was one of the founders of that organization. And they believed in education, and they put together a whole education packet, higher education and everything. And I was chosen to get my education because I wanted one, and I told them. They said, "Well, you have to tell us why you want one," and blah blah blah. So I went through that, and I was accepted. Went to American University. We had American University Pride, American University Project program, and we were supposed to go there for 2 years for community certificate, community development certificate. This was a special program, but they didn't believe. Okay, so we're from the hood. They didn't believe that blah blah blah. They ain't gonna do nothing, but we did. We went up there and we kicked butt, and I got a scholarship for a bachelor's degree, and so that's what I did. I finished my bachelor's degree. It took me 8 years to do all of this. I want you to know, And I worked. I had kids. I worked in 2 or 3 jobs and going to school and all that. I did all that. But when I graduated from American University, somebody was saying, you need to go into social work because you like to do this and blah blah. So I went to Howard University School of Social Work, and they accepted me, but I couldn't go because they did not have the money. They wanted you to go to school full time, so you can't work and blah blah blah. So I needed a scholarship and a fellowship. Well, I got one when they talked about, because the schools, they went to the different colleges, Marion, and went to the different colleges, trying to get us into college. Well, anyway, Catholic University was giving out scholarships, and they needed me and others that looked like me. So my class was 107, and 7 of those students were Black. I was one of the 7. So I got a full scholarship, a fellowship, and everything. And I graduated, and it was in 1977 with a master's degree in social work. Okay, so I started working at the shelter, the emergency shelter for families. First, I worked with the men's shelter. I worked with veterans, homeless veterans, homeless people, blah, blah, blah. But at the Capital City Inn, that was the name, and it was a motel, the biggest motel around. You had 2. You had the Pits, and you had the Capital City Inn. And you had, any given night, you could have 600 families with almost 1,000 children, or 700 or 800 children, or whatever, or 600 children, whatever.
Wow.
And they needed so much, and we were working, trying to find housing and everything for them. And but once they moved out of the shelter, they didn't have anything. They would give them, the department would give them beds and a table to eat on, but that wasn't enough. Their clothes, they didn't have clothes, and they lost their clothes when they got evicted and all that stuff. So I started going around asking folk, listen, could you all help me? Could you got some clothes? If they're not, I'll watch them, or if they knew, fine. If they nearly knew, that's fine too, And if they're gently worn, I can watch them and everything, because these pieces. And people looked at me like, that's not my problem.
Okay.
They shouldn't have did this, and they shouldn't have did that, and they shouldn't be in the shelter. They should be doing this. They should take care of their own kids and blah blah blah. So I heard it so much. So I just, I started finding clothes, my own things, giving them to some of the mothers, and monies that I would give them monies and stuff. And I know I had reached in my pocket and gave out my last, to help. And but then came along a radio station called WOL, a lady named Kathy Hughes. So somebody
I think I know that name. I think I know that name.
Somebody said, girl, you should go on you should call in, because everybody call in, and she's talking to the people who are in problems, had problems, and you should go on. And I said, honey, she'll probably just tell me no like everybody else does, Well, I was wrong. I,
Okay.
got contacted Miss Hughes, and I told her the situation. I told her about the shelter and this and that. And she said, okay, see what we can do. And because of Kathy Hughes, nobody would help me but her. And she did a fantastic job of letting people know what was going on, with the shelters and everything. And she got people like Marilyn Crawford and people like Jamie Foster Brown, I mean, and Dr. C. Dolores Tucker. And I met Rosa Parks through Miss Hughes. She was the one woman. She did that, she helped me. And then people started calling her up and said, thinking that she was a social service agency, calling her, well, Miss Hughes, we need this and we need this. And then I said, Miss Hughes, I said, you're a business. I told me that's a businesswoman. She's not a social service agency. The welfare department is right down the street from the radio station. So then she wanted to help. So I said, well, Miss Hughes, let me volunteer, and all your letters that you get, I'll read them over and I'll investigate for you and everything. And that's how, I started, volunteering at the station with her. But if it had not been for her, you wouldn't have known who Ellen Mccall Haygan was, because nobody was paying attention to me. And wait a minute. Before I know, people was calling me and saying, "Oh, Miss Hughes told me to call you. I got this and I got that. You want to come pick it up?" Yeah, thank you. And that's why I don't know. I'm sorry. I just get tongue tied sometimes because I can't believe the things that happened to me because of meeting her and other people. Then they start calling and saying, we want to honor you. Honor me for what? I said, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. I said, this is my ministry. I don't need any awards. They gave me awards, and some of the awards they gave me, I almost hit the floor. I could not believe it. And one of the ones was the Links. Have you heard of the Links?
Yes, I have. Very prestigious organization.
Right. And guess what? The day that they gave me the award, Dominique Dawes, what is she, a gymnast?
Yes.
Her and I won. Her and I was together on. I got all the stuff. I got the written stuff. But her and I was together on the podium, and we had won the awards together. And she looked at me, and I looked at her. She said, "I want your autograph." I said, "I want your autograph." And Dr. C. Dolores Tucker, she just started helping me with the kids. I was doing all different kinds of things for the children at the shelter. We had a photography program, and the kids' pictures was going all over the world, really, And I got help from and what what Miss Kathy Hughes did. She contacted Eastern Kodak, the film company.
Yes.
And they gave us all the film that we needed to take, pictures. So I decided to put an organization together because people was coming from they were coming from everywhere trying to help. And so I put an organization together. And of course, she referred me to one of her clients. And that was my first donation that I received. The first donation was $1,000. And then the Fannie Mae Foundation, who was working with homeless, found out what I was doing. And then they started giving me monies. I didn't write proposals or anything, but they started giving me monies to help with trying to locate people housing and everything. the Habitat for Humanity called me for my help. They wanted me to work with a grandmother who was taking care of her grandchildren, and we got her. They wanted me to, counsel her and make sure she paid her bills and blah blah. So I walked through it with her. Then I got enough money. We got enough money to pay a down payment on her home. We helped. You had to help her build the home. It's called sweat equity.
Yes.
And we helped. I don't know if I sent you pictures of that, but we helped her build the home, and we paid the down payment on the home. They still calling me. It would, as soon as I can, I will go back because I would like to see some of the other people, with their own homes.
Yes.
2 people that I really help. So I mean, it goes on and on and on, and I just, and then in Marilyn Crawford, that sister, when I started the entrepreneur program, teaching the kids how to do embroidery and to sew a little bit, we had to have machines. And this sister made sure that I had the embroidery machines. Miss Hughes made sure I had the embroidery machines. Miss Crawford, she donated so much money. And Louise Ferguson, I don't know if she's still there, but she's helped me all along. I met her and her family through Miss Hughes, and when I met Rosa Parks, and I started traveling with her and the kids. The kids were going with her, tracing the Underground Railroad and blah blah blah. And I couldn't go that summer. So Louise, she's a school teacher. She went for me. She was the chaperone. She traveled with them. So, I mean, these sisters have been good to me, I tell you. And I mean, sometimes I just overwhelmed. I said, I come from, I mean, if I really sit down and tell you the cruel stepfather I had, you wouldn't believe that I'm who I am or what I am today, which I'm just a child of God, that's all. But I don't know. I'm just. Yeah.
Mrs. Haygan, may I say, first of all, this is such a phenomenal story. Secondly, I would believe what you tell me. I'm a retired high school principal. I've always worked in your, quote, disadvantaged areas on purpose.
Right.
I'm a protege of Dr. George McKenna in Los Angeles, of the George McKenna story. So right. I would believe what you're telling me. But I want to say to you, first of all, I think as you were sharing some of the names of your friends, Mrs. Crawford called in. She gave very glowing explanations about you, about the work that you do. And so as we listen to your story, may I say very respectfully, when a person such as Ella Mccall Haygan has favor, when a person such as Ella Mccall Haygan does things for other people, never, ever apologize again for those of us that recognize the genuine person that you are, the beautiful, warm heart that you have when you try to help others. Because we all know what the psychiatrists and psychologists love to say, about 2 out of 3 people that were abused, et cetera, become abusers themselves, and a whole 9. I mean, so we know that according to the experts, that things could have gone totally in a different total direction, I should say. And you chose, because of the heart that you have, to ensure that individuals that were less fortunate, that were disenfranchised, et cetera, were able to realize some of the finer things in life, even if to them it was a finer thing in life. If you have hand-me-down clothes, or if you can have a meal that you otherwise wouldn't have, et cetera. So I had to share that as a person that's just getting the opportunity to hear your story and to meet you. I also would like to ask this question of you. What do you feel made you decide to take the journey that you took to be a caregiver. I heard very clearly when you said, you say, well, some people said I should be a social worker because XYZ, XYZ. But again, respectfully, as we know, the spirit that you have and the drive that you have to help people, it was not because somebody said you should be a social worker. It is because that's what's in your heart. So what what drove you in that direction?
Okay, I have to start with my mother. My mother was phenomenal. She was from South Carolina, and my grandmother. They were two phenomenal women, and I think they laid the groundwork. I watched them in our community, in the Black community where we lived. She helped they gave out food. We didn't have nothing, but they would share the food with the senior citizens in the neighborhood, with the children in the neighborhood. They would always look out for them. Like some of the mothers who were single mothers, they would babysit for them, when they went out, they had to go somewhere or whatever. And I watched that too. So my heart, she taught us how, my mom taught us to share with the kid next door if he didn't have anything or she didn't have anything. And so that has always been instilled in me. And my mother was a praying woman. And when I was away from home, especially living in New York, I lived off my mother's prayers. I know I did, And another thing, my children, I was a teenage mother. I had three, and I have my three oldest children. These kids, how many kids do I have now? I lost one. I lost my youngest daughter to breast cancer.
My condolences.
We had it at the same time, and God decided to take her. But
I too am a cancer survivor.
Oh, wow. Wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah. So, God, my kids are I have twins. I have, 5 sons. I have 5 sons and 2 daughters now. And I had 3, one, I lost one. But anyway, they are my backbone. My kids, I always wanted to make them proud of me, because like I got flack, teenage mothers, they talked about me like a dog. That's okay. That was all right. My mother said, she said, those without sin cast the first stone.
Absolutely.
So that was one of the things too that I said, yeah, okay, they talk about me. But anyway, I wanted my kids to be proud of me, and they were my motivation. They were my children, were my motivation. And and I think my oldest daughter said I'm like a lioness. She said she'll fight for her kids. So don't say nothing about them children of hers. And I got all these grandchildren. Let me tell you how many grandchildren. I got 15 grandsons.
Okay.
And I got 10 granddaughters.
Okay.
And I don't know how many great grands, because my daughter she keeps up with them. She tells me how many great grands I have. But anyway, my children was my motivating, the motivating factor. But then I felt like I wanted to protect people, especially children, because I had been treated bad by a stepfather, abused. He fought my mother, and he took a straight razor and cut her. He cut her across her back.
Wow.
Then I was homeless when we were a kid because he put us out.
Wow.
And we didn't have nowhere to go but to my grandmother's, who had a small 1-bedroom apartment on 9th Street. And this is where I grew up, and 3 of my children. Yeah. That's that, and that I wanted to protect mothers, and I wanted to protect children. And that was in my mind all the time, or constantly. I got to find a way to protect them. I thought I was I don't know who I thought I was, I'm going to protect them. But, a little girl trying to make sure that everything was okay with them, and looking at kids and making sure the kids was okay, So that's my That's what, and I feel the same. I still feel the same way. I'm always want to make sure the children are doing okay. I want to make sure that the mothers, are doing okay. And that's who I am, and that's what I am, and that's what I'm all about. I mean, titles and things, and I mean, and great things happen to me, Mr. Lodge. Great things happen to me because I met two of the most dynamic women. I mean, all my friends are phenomenal women, but
Yes.
Rosa Parks and Elaine Easton Steele and Miss Peak, who's executive director of. I mean, these three women were something else. And I
Yes.
traveled with Miss Parks and Elaine, and they would, every time they come to DC, they would want me to stay with them. I would stay with them. Before she got here, before Miss Parks, I would be the one who made sure she had a place to stay. All those, the point person, all of these
Absolutely.
different things. But she asked a group of us. We had Miss Barbara Dunn and Linda and all of us. We all had our own individual organization. We worked with kids. That was our main thing, working with children. But she asked us, so we came together and we put together the regional chapter of Pathways to Freedom, which is the youth program.
Yes.
And that's why the kids from here traveled with her and everything. And so we were able to do all of these things. And I continued. Each one had their own organization. So, they had to go and take care of their organization. But Dr. McLeod and we are the co-directors of the program, and we still work with the kids and do all these different things. And I mean, it's just so many people. Really, I met Mrs. King. And because of Miss Parks. Because of Miss Parks, I met Bishop Tutu. I mean, all of these people, I just can't get over. And see Dolores Tucker. I mean, she did everything to help me with these children. The photographer, she would have them to come out and take pictures of when she had her big programs. She would have them come out and she would pay them, so they're learning how to be entrepreneurs back there then. And of course, Miss Hughes she has been with the organization to help me all the time, just past Christmas and Easter clothes, new clothes, and we were feeding people and monies to feed them. Every week I go to the food bank and different food banks, and then the other organization that I'm a part of and on the board for years, that's Children of Mine Youth Center in Southeast.
You said children. You said, say again, please. Say again, please.
Children of Mine Youth Center.
Okay.
In Southeast Washington, D.C. These
Okay.
children come after school. They get a hot meal. They learn arts. They learn all kinds of different things. We feed the men, homeless men. It's a homeless shelter right up the street. We feed them. We give them a gourmet breakfast once a month, with just everything that they like, and help them with clothes. We have clothes for them. And we also, if they need social service, I can help them find if they really want to, do what they want to do. And I still work with veterans, and I, contribute to their programs and that kind of thing. To
see the Ella Mccall Haygan documentary, because
what
you are sharing.
Hey,
listen, I am coming on. That's what I'm trying to tell you now. What you are sharing is just absolutely phenomenal. And to be, first of all, a sister, a Nubian sister, to be that person that was a teen mom, that went through the craziness that you went through as a young person, having to crowd in with your grandmother and your three children, and you studied fighting for other people, and you're continuing to do that today. That needs to be a documentary, because people need to hear positive stories of people that persevere and that are successful, albeit we know that it's, and no one have to tell us this, because we have enough intelligence to understand that there probably were some hiccups. There probably were people trying to throw roadblocks in the way, and there probably were people that were spewing hate and jealousy and enviousness. However, through all of that, you're still standing. So there needs to be at least a documentary about Ella Mccall Haygan. So please continue.
Oh, wow.
Please continue, because I am just fascinated, and I am fascinated. I love these kind of stories. I love hearing about people that persevere and that do things. And dare I say, and I tell people all the time, I say it with no shame. I especially love to hear it about people that look like you and I, because we know all the negative. We know all the negative information that's out there, and all of the propaganda that's continued to be spewed on a daily basis. So I want to give you your flowers right now.
Thank you. That's so nice. Is Michelle Holder on?
No, but Louise Ferguson is on.
Oh, well, I talked about you, girlfriend. My sister. Go ahead.
Please speak, Miss Ferguson.
I simply wanted to say there's no one like Miss Ella. We love her. We truly do. And I have a daughter who also worked for Kathy. And I
met y'all.
she just loved Miss Ella. There's no one like you, Ella. No one. You're God's gift to all of us. You really are.
Thank you, baby.
Wow. Wow.
Thank you.
That is powerful.
I wanted to say about Dr. Dorothy Height. I know you know Dr. Dorothy Height.
Of course.
Well, Dr. Dorothy Height gave me a leadership award. That's what I'm saying. Rosa Parks gave me 2 awards, and Dr. Height. I mean, she was just incredible. She was just a wonderful woman. I loved her so much, and never thinking that I would meet her. And her staff was so great. And one young lady, Michelle Holder, who was like supervised the director of the youth, and we worked together with the youth. I would come in and do some showing them some sewing and embroidery and different things like that. And she, we work together. We still work together when we can. And I don't think they're here, but I worked with some young men called Young Men of Distinction. And these boys live in Ward 5 in Washington, D.C. And some of them had not really been traveled a lot, So I took them all out, the whole group, I don't know how many it was, to dinner. I had a sponsor who sponsored them, what do you call it, a 6-course dinner?
Okay.
This Italian place. And I mean, they were just so thrilled. They dressed up with their little white shirts on and ties and little, and they were just so surprised. The food kept coming and coming, And then the last time when they had the dessert, the ice cream, you could make your own sundaes and stuff. And that was one of the, it was just heartwarming for me. So I continue to work with them too. The 2 organizations, I said my organization, our organization, and of course, Children of Mine, and then the Young Men of Distinction, and I have a senior citizen organization that I work with too, as well, Seton Place, Northeast. So, I'm constantly working with different organizations, but people like Louise and Marilyn and Kathy, of course, I mean, they're always behind me. I can turn around and say, yo, you know what? I need $1. That's all. And I, collect. I don't do proposals, because I don't need no big money. First of all, we don't get paid. We are a non-salary, free, volunteer organization. My in-kind. I do my services as a social worker. They're all in-kind. So we just need a little bit to help who we can help. So I just wanted to put that out there. That nobody's getting paid and all that stuff. Never have.
Right.
But
You know what? May I
mhm.
may I say again, especially after you share that information, is that's why I want to say to you is that I understand about the hiccups and the people throwing shade and that kind of thing, is because it's sad to me, Ms. Haygan, as to how we worry so much about who's getting paid as opposed to
Yeah,
helping other people. So
exactly.
I hear you very loudly. Allow me to say without being insulting, been there, done that, got the
Done
t-shirt,
that.
the trophy, the pad, and the pen. So I
I
hear
know
you.
that's right. And it ain't about money all the time. You know what
Not
I
at
mean?
all. But
And I
but
think about. Go ahead.
no,
Go
no,
ahead.
you go ahead. This is your show. I'm just a host.
Okay. Well, I'm not. Like I'm not trying to preach or anything, but I try to. I love the book of the Apostle Paul. I love what he talked about Jesus. He loved Jesus. And my thing is, I always wanted to. I get mad with the disciples. I said, "How could you walk with this man and betray him?" He was all about love, and that's what I follow. I try to follow him, and I try to follow his beliefs. And I always want to be able to give the love that Jesus gave, the pure love. Not the jealousy love or this and oh, I love blah, blah, blah. I want the pure love of God, and that's when you love people from the bottom of your heart. And you have
Absolutely.
to learn how to forgive. But it's kind of hard, but you got to learn how to. But even if you, because I remember, well, let me tell you this, Ms. Lodge, when I was at the shelter, when them women, they didn't know my background, they didn't know what I had been through, but you B, I thought my name was B.
Oh,
I got called that all the time
okay.
until somebody, a young woman, a reporter from the Washington Post, she came out because that shelter was something else. It was always in the news or on the news. When she came out and she did it, she wanted to do a story. She did a story, and I told a little bit about myself. And then after that, many of them came up to me and hugged me. They said, "Miss Mccall, we didn't know. Miss Haygan, we didn't know." When they
Yeah,
found out the story. So like that was okay. I understood that. But
I hear
I'm
you.
telling you, like you say, people. Yeah, like I said, money ain't everything.
No, it's
Shoot.
not. No, it's
So.
not. But listen, I think Miss Gooding, is going to speak with us. Miss Gooding,
That's my
please.
baby.
Is that right? Please come on, Miss Gooding.
Well,
That's my
hello
oldest
there.
daughter.
I'm her oldest daughter. I was waiting because I wanted to be the last to say something about my mother.
Okay.
We come from a family of strong women. She talked about my great grandmother and then my grandmother who raised me when my mom left and went to New York. My grandmother lived to be 104 years old. That woman had tenacity, and my mother's the same way. So my other sisters, my sister that passed, we are all strong women. We all believe in love. My sister next to me was a nurse, a retired nurse, and she took for a very long time. We got that from my mother. I'm one that raises the grandchildren like my grandmother did. Right now, I have 3 grandchildren that I'm raising with the death of our daughter, but I get all of that from her. The things that she's done are amazing, and I don't have a problem with telling people about it, about her, about us. My grandson is also on here. He might not say anything, my grandson Christopher, who I raised, but my mom, the stories she could tell, the things that she did. And for us as kids, when somebody like the Temptations came by the house, we were like, whoa. My mom knew the Temptations. She knew this person, Bobby Womack, all of the people that she knew. And those the people gravitated to her. the way she worked in New York, she was a waitress, and the things that she did. And she does have a story to tell. She needs to finish her book, and there does need to be a documentary, because I know without her, I wouldn't be the person that I am. I work at the University of the District of Columbia. I've been there for 45 years, and I've been there because I like dealing with students. It's important to me. So my mom is everything, and all of us would say that about our moms, but she just, even now, she's still fighting. Anybody mess with her children, she's still gonna fight with her cane and all, because that's who she is. She's a spunky woman who wants to help others. And we do the same thing because we get it from her and we got it from my grandmother. And I just wanted to say, I thank you for doing this. Yes, my mom is definitely one of those great moms that, I mean, I put her against any mom, any famous mom, because of the work that she does and the work that she still does. So
what a fabulous tribute.
Yeah.
That's my oldest child, and that's my backbone. I worry to death.
But it's okay.
She know it all. And let me tell you, when I was in college, American University, my child used to type my papers for me on a typewriter.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, Ms.
Let me tell you this. You know, I worked in New York as when I lived in Harlem. I worked as waitress, barmaid, everything you can think of. But at this particular club, it was a supper club. You know, where they had a band and everything.
Yes.
And I was a waitress. And his name was it was called Wells Chicken and Waffle. Now that's where the original chicken and waffle came from. They talk about this man in California, but this Mr. Wells, everything was from scratch. He had came from Florida and bought that, and everybody that was in show business came in that place. Cecily Tyson, and just everybody. But one of the people, and I know you know this, Mr. Large. There's a program that come on, it's called Gangster, and they're talking about a man called Bumpy Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson was my biggest tipper. Mr. Johnson was my big tipper. He was a good man, smart man. I didn't know. I had no idea. Only thing, you know what I thought he was? A number runner. Because at Wells, when the phone, you know, we used to have the old, you know how the phones, phone booths and all that.
Yes.
And they would be calling, they were number writers all up and down. That, you know, that was part of our culture back then. Writing numbers and, you know, get paid and all that. But anyway, I used to answer the phone. When I answered the phone and they said, well, say so-and-so and so. And I said, okay, I'll tell him. I would give him the message.
Yes.
You know, and he always looked out for me. He was smart. He was a gentleman. All this crime and stuff he was in, I didn't know nothing about it.
Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? That's a good thing.
He died in Wells. He had a heart attack in Wells. That's where he died.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out to you.
No, hey, I'm glad you did, because I've seen several versions of the American Gangster and people talking about Bumpy Johnson and that kind of thing. So that's super.
Right. He was a brilliant man too. He could quote Shakespeare. He was something. Mm-hmm.
Well, may I say to you, as a former teacher, former high school principal, central office worker that always worked with, quote, the incorrigible children, is that you find geniuses among all of them all of the time that unfortunately have chosen crime as opposed to just going through what we call regular everyday life. So I'm not shocked at all that he was a genius person, because we find that. But of course, we as people of color know that. Is right. You know, it's just the propagandists and the racists and that kind of thing that try to make us think and make others think that we are ignorant or can't learn, that kind of stuff. But that's a very interesting and very warm story as well. But do you have any parting words for us?
I just thank you for wanting to hear my story. I have, you know, what do you say, hidden, but I've always wanted to be in the background, and I've, like, my children have not seen, I don't know if they've seen any of the awards that I've won. I never showed it. I never showed it to them, you know, but they're here. And when I graduated from American University, the yearbook, I never showed them the yearbook. But my cousin who does the ancestry, she found the yearbook. And she said, "Girl, you graduated from American University." She didn't tell nobody. So I you know, that's what I've always wanted to kind of stay behind in the background, and never wanted like to be kind of known. And Kathy Hughes, she ruined that for me. She made me known all over the world almost. And now you come along.
But see, that's a blessing. Miss Kathy Hughes is a blessing to you, because your
Oh,
story,
Lord knows, honey. I don't know what I would do without my sister.
your story needs to be told. And again, allow me to be redundant.
Uh-huh.
When there are people such as Ella Mccall Haygan, those individuals are the ones that need to be heard from. You are not patting yourself on the back. You are not saying, "Look at me." You are an inspiration for the world. And there are so many people out there that are beat up and downtrodden and have been told that they are nothing and that they'll never amount to anything and that there really is no hope. But see, you shatter all of those myths. And it pains me to say that I know some Ella Mccall Hagans that never ascended to where they could ascend because of what I've just stated. So they need to hear your story. They need to hear your story. So I can appreciate you sharing that you want to stay in the background. That's okay. But you can't be allowed to stay in the background because you share too much to those that need to hear from you. So let others tell your story. That's all. Let others tell your story, and you can still be in the background, in the spotlight at the same time.
Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah.
I'm telling you now. Listen,
Okay.
you and I are gonna become great friends, because I'm telling you right now.
I know we are.
Anybody that knows
I
me,
know we are.
and Mrs. Peak and
Uh,
Mrs. Easton still can tell you that I'm just like a bulldog. I still have that football mentality. When I see greatness, when I see greatness, and when I meet greatness, and again I'll say, especially when it comes to others, remember I told you I've been an activist all of my life. You know, NAACP president,
yes.
all of this kind of stuff. I've been fighting all of my life, so I cannot sit back and not ring your bell. I will not sit back and not ring your bell. So I'm just warning you ahead of time, is that I'm one of your biggest fans already. So with that stated, Miss Ella, understand that you are an icon.
Oh, thank you.
You are an icon.
Can I thank all of my children, my girlfriends, my sister friends, everybody for listening, you know, and I really thank you for always having my back.
Well, listen, that's going to continue. So with that, we're going to bid you a good night. And we want to say again to our audience, this has been the Nobody Asked Me Guy Show. I'm your host, Melvin Casey Lars, and we are so happy that you're here. I know that from all of the hearts and thumbs up I've seen going up throughout the night, I know that you guys were greatly impressed with our guest. I told you guys we had a phenomenal, stupendous guest. And as always, we say to our new listeners is that if you'll be so kind as to go to not our Facebook page. I'm sorry, we can go there too. But if you were to go to our YouTube channel, the Nobody Asked Me Guy Show, and if you were to subscribe to our channel, we'd be most grateful. And check out some of our other guests that we've had as well. We'll be coming up with new guests all the time. Our show normally premieres on Tuesday evenings at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, which is an hour earlier than the Eastern Time. So we want to issue a formal apology to all of those of you that are on Eastern Standard Time that was coming to the show tonight, and you came on at your time and we were not here. So we want to apologize. Miss Ella, we appreciate you, dear. We want
Yes,
you to have a great, great night. And we want to make sure we stay in contact. And I, again, want to thank all of our guests that were here supporting Ms. Ella. And Ms. Gooding, there's nothing more impressive or heartfelt for a parent than to hear their children appreciate them. So we thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Laws. Talk to you soon.
Okay, look forward to it.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
No. When